The Arizona Wildcats college football experience 2023 team preview season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Networks, brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, this is Eric Metcalf. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Arizona Wildcats 2023 season preview edition. Tell that little Wildcat behind the wheel that she's a terrible driver. I forget what Dennis Hopper said in the movie Speed, but it was something like that. And look, you might be wondering just who the hell you're listening to. Well, my name is Kobe Swigga Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I smoke and I drink and I don't have stress and I'm healthy.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Oh, yes. You know I love these team previews. We're on the letter A. The journey just getting started. And I also believe in Speed. Keanu Reeves goes, he called you Wildcat. Arizona, good football team, right? Well, it's been a while since Rich Rod since I would define them as a good football team. But Jedd Fisch might have them back on the way there. And look, I mean, I guess actually I have this song too. Wildcats. Arizona Wildcat theme song. I am joined by, I'm excited to have this guy on the show. I think you're going to be hearing him a lot on the college football experience in the coming years, dare I say. This guy, he previewed a slew of teams with me last year. I've known him for a few years. He is a college football guru, in my opinion. He's always... He's got deep knowledge. Give it up for Mike Rose, aka Gulf Coast Guru. How you doing, Mike?
What's up, man? I always think to myself, I remember last year as you were winning games, you caught fire, you went on that big underdog tear, and I was listening, that Dundee intro got longer and longer and longer. And I'm like, this dude's going to get through like the first two movies. It's just going to be the whole show. And I was like, man, I got to get there one day where my name got that clout, you know?
Well, dude, I used to play the Land Down Under music and what he's talking about, folks, I got so successful that somehow when I started to get sued by them. So I can't play that song anymore. So, we picked enough winners that Men at Work came for me. Who would have thought? But, dude, it's great to have you back, man.
Stay humble, man. You think they'd stay humble?
Yeah, I'm keeping their song relevant in 2023. Come on, you bastards. What do you think? It's not like I'm sitting here on a yacht. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm living in Bora Bora here. But dude, I mean, the Arizona Wildcats, first off, great to have you here. And I'm excited for the future. Having you here for more previews and more content. We have some more announcements we'll do regarding that. I love your football knowledge and I'm excited to talk Arizona Wildcat football with you. So I'm glad that you're here. And I'm curious just your take on the state of the program. I know we're diving into I have a million stats and nuggets about the Arizona Wildcats. And I guess I should just dive right into their history because look, this program has 5 undefeated seasons in their history. And I like to call those national championships, Mike. So look, I mean, some of those you're like, hey, they're undefeated. The more you go through the history of college football, the more you'll be like, wait, huh? Like just blindly off the top of my head, it's like I think Texas was 11-1 in 1971 or 70. I'm trying to. I can't remember if it was 70 or 71. They played Notre Dame, who was 11-1, right? Texas loses to Notre Dame in the bowl game. So both teams have the same record, right? The same exact record. I'm sorry. So Texas was 11-0. Notre Dame was 10-1. They play in the bowl game. Notre Dame wins and dominates the game. Texas wins the national championship. I don't understand it. All right. So all I'm telling you is when I see 5 undefeated season, fuck it. You're national champions. All right. Until we have a large playoff, because I don't understand, essentially you'll have like a newspaper, like, for Arizona standards, it would be like the Tombstone Gazette just saying, well, Arizona won the national championship. And then the universities will cling on to it. I don't understand why any university that doesn't have an undefeated season hasn't clung on to it. Because if you go historically through the history of college football, you'll see a lot of those and you'll research. You'll be like, hey, well, where did they win this national championship? And you're like, oh, the local newspaper appointed them national champions. They don't even cover college football. So 5 national champions. I'm saying it here. All right. And
what's Pitt have, like 13?
Yeah.
They claim them all.
That's what I'm saying.
7-5. They're winning it all, dude.
Exactly. So yeah, we played a tougher schedule. You never know. Now we have this big playoff. Arizona Wildcat football is exciting. Jedd Fisch, the rebuild, they were a strange team a year ago. I'll just say that. Like I watched to get ready for this episode. I watched every game over the past week. And I fast forwarded through some, but they actually played a tough schedule last year. The non-con was Mike Leach and Mississippi State, the North Dakota State, who played for the FCS national championship, and then San Diego State, who was a bowl team. So those were their 3 non-con games. So maybe they would have been a bowl team had they had an 8-game conference schedule. And UTEP and Tulsa on the schedule. Who knows? But I can tell you this: you look at what Jedd Fisch has done. 5 wins is a big step up. It wasn't that long ago. I think it was the COVID season that Kevin Sumlin lost by like 70 points to Arizona State. I mean, in the Territorial Cup. So they've been getting better. They've been getting better. Can they make the next step, which I think would be a bowl game? We're going to talk all about it. But before I do that, I got to get us paid. I want to tell you that the college football experience, Arizona Wildcats 2023 season previews, brought to you by Edge Boost. Yes, this episode is supported by Edge Boost, and Edge Boost is the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Yes, Edge currently offers up to $2,500 in betting advances, which can be just an unbelievably, extremely valuable tool. If you're like me, throwing down money. Sometimes, maybe you lose a close game where you knew you were right, but just bad beats happen. Well, I'm a married man. You don't want to see another transaction with another $700. Your wife's going to be sitting there saying, hey, what is this? You said you're going to bet some money. Well, it's getting a little crazy now. Well, that's why you can go incognito and basically hit up Edge Boost and say, hey, loan me that $2,500 and you can get down on some of your favorite futures without tying up your bankroll or having your girlfriend or wife ask questions or whoever. Look, double down. You can double down on your favorite bet. You can, perhaps middle or hedge, even though we don't advise to do so here. My point is Edge Boost is quality. All right. They're not some sleazy loan shark that's going to be sitting there waiting for you to come out of the bowling alley with a lead pipe. All right. To break your legs. No. And they don't charge any interest. So it's simple. All right. Here's your $2,500. We're not even going to charge any interest. You're good. I've never heard of something that awesome. Like as far as trying to get extra money, so you got to check it out, folks. Support SGPN and grow your bankroll by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge. You must be 21 years or older to use. Problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. We are back on the Arizona Wildcats 2023 preview. I'll play it again. So looking at this season, well, I got a key on the transfer portal. I mean, short of Army, Navy, and Air Force, we have to designate like 30 minutes to the transfer portal on every team. So I'll key in on what they lost. All right. And for some reason, it feels like USC and UMass just watched every Arizona game and said, "Hey, that kid's good. Let's get him." I know USC playoff contender, UMass, perhaps a playoff contender. It's a new year, baby. I know Don Brown was previously the defensive coordinator at Arizona. Maybe that has something to do with it. But defensive lineman JB Brown left for UMass. Quarterback Jordan McLeod left for James Madison. Linebacker Colby Cage, good name there, Colby, went to Southern Miss. And I think these two were gigantic. Keon Bars, defensive lineman, left for USC. Also defensive lineman Paris Shand, or Shand, I might be butchering that, left for LSU, and Brian Kelly and his family. And then wide receiver Dorian Singer, who was a beast last year for Arizona, left for USC. Circle those three. There's some more, but circle those three as just catastrophic losses, I would say. Linebacker Tyler Martin also left for UMass. Offensive tackle Woody Jean for FAU. Running back Jalen John to UMass. Athlete Anthony Simpson to UMass. Defensive lineman Deion Wilson to New Mexico State. Oh, this one was huge too. Cornerback Christian Roland Wallace, who is a starter, also left for USC. And then linebacker Jerry Roberts to UMass. UMass and USC took this whole team. Now, the hard part here is they were not a good defensive team a year ago. I'm going to rattle off the stats in a minute. But you did lose your three best defensive players that were supposed to return. You know what I mean? So that is a huge concern to me. Last year, I thought Arizona was a team that really won the transfer portal. This year, they kind of got destroyed in the portal. They added these guys, and I think I'll note the ones that I think will be starting. Defensive lineman Tyler Manoa from UCLA. I actually think he's got a shot to start. Linebacker Oren Patu from Cal. I don't think he'll start, but I think you could see him on the field some. Linebacker Justin Flo from Oregon. Now this one is, I think, their biggest get out of everybody. I think he'll be starting. Defensive lineman Bill Norton from Georgia, national champion. So that's a nice addition. Linebacker Daniel Himaluli from Washington. I'm probably butchering the names because I have a hard time with all these Pacific Islanders. Defensive lineman from Indiana, Sio Nofogato Toa. I'm probably butchering that one too. Wide receiver Montana Lemonious-Craig, and that was a big one from Colorado because he had the big spring game for Deion, where he had over 150 yards. I feel like, and last year he did have a game-winning. The Colorado's only win of the season was against Cal, and he had an unbelievable catch in the corner of the end zone. I think he'll step right in and be a starter, probably their third wideout, because I know they're actually very skilled at the wideout position. Defensive end Taylor Upshaw from Colorado also joins them. I think he's got a chance to see the field as well. But I think the big ones are Justin Flo, Bill Norton, and Montana Lemonious-Craig. So that's the portal. But I would still say they lost because they lost Singer. They lost those defensive linemen that were their best players. They also lost Christian Roland Wallace. I think those are pretty big hits. Even the Jordan McLeod thing to JMU, I thought, there was a decent chance he would be their second string quarterback. Although they got my guy Fafita, who's a beast. I'm curious your take. Do you agree that the portal, although last year super kind when they got Jacob Cowing and everybody, I feel like this year they kind of got hit pretty hard.
I think it is a loss. I think there's something to be said for the defense. It wasn't good last year, and they did lose some key pieces off of that bad defense. I'm sure you'll hit them with the numbers. They only have 3 returning starters on that defense from a year ago. But sometimes when you have a unit that performs that poorly, it could be addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
So, they lost some key pieces, but they did bring in what I liked about it. It wasn't guys coming from, Sam Houston State, this, that, the other, FCS. It was all Power 5 defensive guys coming in. And Justin Flo, that's a name to watch. I think that guy can make some noise. I don't think the defense is going to be any worse. And the offense is looking good. So while I would call the portal a slight loss, I don't think it was devastating.
True. And I actually believe this year's schedule is not as difficult. So sometimes your numbers. I mean, I think Stanford a couple years ago, maybe it was 2019 or 21. I forget. They played 12 Power Fives, and you're like, well, you kind of got to take all those numbers with a grain of salt because they played 12 Power Fives, and then you see, so many other teams will have Bowling Green on the schedule, or not. That's not a shot at Bowling Green, but I'm saying like they'll have FCSs or MAC teams, and then you can pad your stats and really dilute your numbers. So last year's schedule, I do think was pretty hard. Let's talk about that offense though. Jayden de Laura, I call him Fran Tarkenton 2.0 because this guy, the offensive line wasn't amazing last year, and he can buy time. Now, sometimes it gets him into trouble. Sometimes it'll get him into trouble because he'll be sitting there running back, 30 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I remember a play in the Mississippi State game where he made an unbelievable play. First off, he drops back, rolls to the left, runs all the way to the right side of the field. So he's about 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Then Mississippi State looks like they sack him. He breaks out of it. And then, you're like, oh my God, this is an incredibly athletic play. But then he rolls to the left side of the field and throws like a 60-yard pass that gets intercepted. And you're just like, dude, if you just throw that away, next play. But he's a damn good player. I liked him when he was at Wazoo with Nick Rolovich. I still think, he's the third, just last season, he became the third leading passer in Arizona history. So right there, the guy is extremely talented. You gotta like the Pac-12 is actually loaded with quarterbacks this year. Last season, in Brennan Carroll's offense, they were 47th in scoring offense, 70th in rush offense, 6th in pass offense, 20th in total offense, top 20 offense in Tucson here in the desert. And like I mentioned, de Laura's back. Michael Wiley is back. He rushed for 771 yards a season ago. Guy also has 95 career receptions. Now, Michael Wiley is, to me, I think they should try to commit more to him. I watched, most recently, I watched all the games, but the Arizona State game, the Dust Bowl that I call it the Dust Bowl, and the UCLA game I watched twice over the past week. And I was watching those and I was like, this guy's good. They need to get him the ball more. I would have assumed after watching those games that he had over 1,000 yards rushing. He didn't. I know he could have been dinged up some a little bit here and there, but still, I think they should make it more of a point of emphasis to get him the ball. 8 starters are back on that offense, 3 of 5 on the offensive line, which should be improved. They lost obviously their star receiver, but I wouldn't worry one bit about losing Singer because Jacob Cowing, who had 85 catches for over 1,000 yards a year ago, he's back. He was the big UTEP transfer they got late in the transfer portal a year ago. But they also have McMillian, T. McMillian, I call him because I can never Tetairoa McMillian. This guy was like a 4 or 5 star out of Santa Ana.
Biggest recruit in program history. So
yeah, out of Santa Ana, California, and Fafita. Their backup quarterback played with them in high school. So they flashed a little bit in that Mississippi State game when they came in, and obviously McMillian just a beast. So you have Cowing, McMillian, you add Montana Lemonious-Craig. I think your receivers are actually pretty damn good. And your tight end of Tanner McLaughlan, that guy is a beast. That guy emerged as the season went along. I think this offense is really good. I think it's going to be a top 25 offense again. How about yourself?
No, I'm right on par with you. You had Michael Wiley. He was getting some carries taken away from him from Jonathan Coleman, who is also back. So they have their 2 top running backs back. Like you said, receiver room is downright nasty. Cowing also really good in the kick return game. So you have that as well. McMillian, I expect big things out of him with Singer gone. And you nailed it. Brennan Carroll, his forte is the tight end. So McLaughlan, you saw him improve last year. I think he's going to be just as good. And when you see that tight end coming back to a senior, lot of experience, you add that to an offensive line with 3 of 5 coming back, including this monster Jordan Morgan. You said you watched the games. I remember watching last year and seeing that man 6'6", 320, big left tackle, huge. He's good. So offense, there's no problems here on offense. I love it.
I would think de Laura, another year in the system, will probably improve on limiting the turnovers. Now, I understand his game is it's like a little bit of Brett Favre, without the the painkillers and the dick pics. But like he
That's
kind
the
of
best
like
part of Brett Favre.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Kobe? No.
Come on, man.
Well, actually, de Laura did get a DUI back in Washington State, so that's pretty on par with Brett Favre. But I do think he's just going to continue this. Another year in this offense. I think that should be a lot better. And watch out, because I think the guy can put up monster numbers, and he is a fun player to watch, folks.
When I really started liking him was after the Rolovich drama went down, and what happened with Rolovich, I think, was total BS. Man, I hated it. Yeah, but I remember thinking like this team's gonna quit, this team's done, and de Laura came out and said, "Nah, we're gonna rally and we're still gonna play for Rolo." And they went out there and they finished the season all right. I mean, they didn't fold up. So I said that at that point, I was like, no, this kid's a dog. He got game, and he showed it the rest of the season. There, he showed it last year with Arizona. So I'm big on him. He needs to limit the turnovers, but I like him a lot.
Hell yeah, man! I really believe this offense is going to fly. Now the defense. Okay, this is where we buckle up, because 125th in scoring defense. The rushing defense was awful. 113th. Also the pass defense. 106th. Overall, their total defense 124th. It's like you mentioned, though. I don't really believe you can get worse than that. No. Like I get it. They only have 3 returning starters, and you could even debate that. Certain guys didn't start all those games. They started a few, and you're just saying, well, they're bringing back 3. They're breaking in a brand new defensive line. I think that's one of the most concerning things. The line of scrimmage, there's a reason why Georgia has been winning national championships with a walk-on at quarterback, and a lot of it is the defensive line. Linebackers, they bring up Jacob Manu and Traden Stukes are back, and Justin Flo will be in the mix, I think, with them. So I think the linebacker position is their best unit on defense. The secondary only returns 1, and safety gunner Maldonado. I mean, I got a ton of concerns on the defensive side of the ball. I think, that now the schedule's easier, as I alluded to, but I got a ton of concerns. How about you?
Yeah, me too. Same exact concerns. And my problem is 3 of their more winnable games are on the road. And you like to see a defense that can travel. You like to see a team that can commit to the run and you trust them on the road. That's kind of the formula for good football teams, is be able to run the football, be able to play defense.
Yeah. Buddy, did your mic cut out? I think your mic might have cut out, but anyway, yes, I think that is one of the things though that has been concerning. If you're an Arizona Wildcat fan, is your defensive line your defense in general has been completely, a liability, really for a while. The whatever happened to the Desert Storm defense, but yeah, I mean, I think that's something they got to get fixed, and hopefully defensive coordinator Johnny Nansen is up for fixing that there. Are you still with me, Mike? I am not hearing you, but there we go. Okay, there we go. There we go. Apologize to the listeners out there, but we're hey, it's early. We're on the letter A. Let's go. All right. Yeah, but that secondary defensive line, a lot of question marks. Obviously, I know you were keying in on the road when we lost you for a second there. And I think, when they do hit the road, I think you're right. I think those are going to be some of the more challenging spots this year with such a questionable defense.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with 3 of those games should be fairly easy wins for this team. That was what I was kind of driving at. But yeah, I don't like that defense on the road at all.
Yeah, special teams though, kicker and punter back, and Tyler Loop and Kyle Ostendorp. Those guys, I was watching. I know I watched the season last season. I watched all those games, but I watched them this past week, getting ready for this episode, and I'm sitting there like, damn, they're pretty good. Their punter's money, their kicker's solid. Let's go. Maybe the special teams, like you touched on, Jacob Cowing's been a beast in the return game. Maybe they can steal some games, perhaps. With the special teams. Now, last year they drew Washington State, Washington, Oregon, and Cal from I know they got rid of divisions, but those were teams they got from the North, essentially. Now this season, you could argue, I think it's easier. Oregon State, Washington, and Stanford. I think Stanford's worse than Cal. and they don't draw Oregon this year. They get Oregon State, Washington State, and Washington, who in my mind will probably be bowl teams. But remember, they do not get North Dakota State. They do go to Starkville, but once again, Mike Leach isn't there. And they don't get San Diego State. They get UTEP coming, which I think is an easier game for them. Then you have the fact of, well, I don't know, because they got Colorado and Arizona State last year, who were really down. And I actually think those games will be harder going into this year. We're going to go game by game on the schedule, but would you agree with that take? Like Colorado and Arizona State were kind of like, they kind of waved the white flag. I felt like, I know Arizona State fought hard in the Dust Bowl or the rivalry game, but I kind of feel like there'll be more optimisms around the program, which makes those games a little bit harder this year. You?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Arizona State, I mean, obviously you're catching them at the end of the season as always, but that's the problem with Colorado too, is if I was going to pick apart that team, obviously they look like with all the transfers and stuff, maybe they're going to be a lot better. I'm very interested to see when you do the team breakdown on Colorado, what you think, but catching them towards the end of the year, I think that's going to be when they're probably going to be firing on all cylinders and kind of get it figured out. So they wiped the floor with them last year. Arizona did, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case this time around.
Another thing is they were 3-1 in one-score games a year ago. A lot of times, I've been tracking these stats. I know Phil Steele, our friend, Phil Steele does this as well. A lot of times that's not sustainable year in, year out. To go to basically have a winning record. Now that's not, some of the teams like TCU were like 6-1 in one-score games. That's really not sustainable. 3-1 maybe, but it'll be interesting to see. All right, let's hop into the schedule. Cause if you're watching on YouTube, what you should be subscribed to the College Football Experience on YouTube, youtube.com/the College Experience. You will see this sweet graphic. Shout out to our guy, Cameron Kerr, who did this sweet graphic for us. The win total is set at 5. I think blindly before I looked at the schedule, I said, hey, they could go bowling. I feel like the offense brings back everybody. The defense can't get much worse. So I blindly thought, without looking at the schedule, I said, yeah, I think this team's a 6 or 7 win team. I don't know if I agree now. We'll dive into it, but what was your first reaction as well, Mike?
Yeah, so I kind of thought the same exact thing. I looked at the over-under. I said, okay, 5. They went 5-7 last year, so this program seems to be trending up. I think Jedd Fisch has it going in the right direction. But as I got through it and as I looked at the spots on the road, like I was kind of talking about, it seemed like it was going to be a little harder. And I hope this is a program that kind of realized that sometimes when you're progressing as a program, it doesn't happen all at once. And it doesn't always mean your record is better the next year as it was the year before, even though you're still getting better. There's just tricky spots and other teams are getting better and stuff's just chaotic. I mean, Arizona might be in the Big 12 soon. Did you see that?
I did. So yeah, I mean, obviously that would be very crazy news and who knows what happens there, but they open the season against the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks out of the FCS. Now the Lumberjacks don't look now. Jedd Fisch opened his Arizona coaching career to playing the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, and they came into Tucson and won 21-19 back on September 18th, 2021. I don't think it was his first game, but it was one of them. Revenge, but also watch out. I mean, if you watch the USFL, Case Cookus, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the USFL, he's a Northern Arizona Lumberjack alum. They got a decent program there in the Big Sky. It could be a tricky game. I think they should win this, but NAU is not terrible is my point. What do you make of this game? And is this one you got the Wildcats winning here?
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Wildcats on this one. I love the Northern Arizona playing the Arizona State. It's just like Northern Iowa, same thing when they play the Iowas. I feel like it's usually competitive, but yeah, I got to win for Zona.
I do too. And I think, Northern Arizona should rotate. They should be playing Arizona and Arizona State every other year. And by the way, Grand Canyon, who's not located in the Grand Canyon, but they're somewhere in the Phoenix area, start your football program. I know you guys have been talking about it. Start your college football program, please. All right, week 2, they head to Starkville. And I think, this is one of the more interesting teams, I think, as far as me having no idea. I know we touched on Deion Sanders, right? and Colorado, and we have no idea really. It's really hard for any preseason college football podcast. I don't care if you're affiliated with the university. I think it's a challenge to understand who they're going to be, right? Well, Mississippi State, I actually have as like, if I was to make a list of 10 teams, I am very curious. They're getting rid of the air raid. And I listen to other podcasts that are college football affiliated. And I talk to people that write college football that I do like Will Rogers. I hope he kills it this year, but I am concerned. They have him. A lot of people think that he's like a top 20 quarterback this year. He played out of the air raid in high school. So he's played at the air raid in high school and in college. And now you're going to ditch the air raid and you're going to go under center a lot. That's a little concerning to me. So even though it's in Starkville, I got the cowbell right here. Arizona fans don't want to hear that, but we were friends of Mike Leach, rest in peace. I think I think Mississippi State's going to win this, but I have no idea really what to expect with Mississippi State. They bring in the App State offensive coordinator. Now App State did pass a little bit more than they used to, but they still were a run heavy team. What do you make of this game and Mississippi State this season?
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really interesting game. When I make a Mississippi State is I think they're definitely going to take a little bit to kind of figure it out on offense. I haven't really dug too deep into them, but I think as a blatant statement, you're kind of safe to say that. However, this particular game, I could see this game being like a 10-3 final score. I think you're still going to have that SEC big defensive line. We already talked about the defense on Arizona not being that great, but I think it's just going to be a really, really ugly game where the Arizona offense isn't going to travel as good as they want to. We all know Starkville, tough place to play. So I'm going to predict. I'm putting my money on it. 10-3, Mississippi State gets the win.
I love it. But hammer the under here on the college football experience on the total for that game. No, I got Mississippi State winning the game. Now Zach Arnett's the new head coach of Mississippi State, taking over for Coach Leach. He was the defensive coordinator for Mississippi State a year ago. Runs the 3-3-5, the Rocky Long defense, and I do think they'll be able to beat Arizona here. I think it'll be could be a closer game than perhaps a season ago, which was, kind of got away from them late in the fourth. So I got them at 1-1. And then the UTEP Miners, Jacob Cowing's old team that lost him. They head over to Arizona Stadium in Tucson, Arizona on Saturday, September 16th. UTEP, they had certain games where they looked all right. They just missed out on a bowl. However, I don't think they're very good. And they've been hitting the portal pretty bad this year as well. I got Arizona bouncing back and beating the UTEP Miners. How about yourself?
Yeah, this is the second leg of back-to-back road trip. You've been preaching it for years. It's a stat I follow. So UTEP, even though I don't even think that necessarily matters a ton, I just think it adds to the fact that UTEP has no chance here. And I'm hoping for the best for Dana Dimmel. I really like him, but I think his time might be coming there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough. They have one of the best stadiums, the Sun Bowl, one of the best stadiums in all of college football. Okay, so now is an interesting game because you have Troy Taylor. They have Mississippi State, and another team that would be a kind of a mystery team to me is Stanford. Stanford went out and hired head coach Troy Taylor, who did a unbelievable job with Sacramento State in the FCS. They put up a lot of points, but Sacramento State's defense didn't really exist. I'm very curious to see how Stanford is this year with him at head coach, and obviously Stanford always, I feel like, has solid quarterback play. So maybe the offense will be able to fly with Troy Taylor. Now, no one goes to the Stanford games. They give away free tickets last year. No one shows up. All right. It's ridiculous, but I kind of think Arizona's going to win this one. I think they're going to be 3-1. A little bit of an unknown with Troy Taylor. I do think like the offense could, especially knowing how bad Arizona's defense was last year. This might be like a 56-49 game, but I do think Arizona's the better team, and it's not a tough place to play. So I think, and that's what makes that Mississippi State game so interesting. Imagine if they were to somehow pull off the upset in Starkville. I think they could start 4-0 then. And then you never know what can happen with confidence and everything. I mean, I guess you saw Syracuse do that a year ago and ended up, barely getting to a bowl. But what are you doing here in Palo Alto on the farm?
Yeah, so I also same exact train of thought as you. I have the win here for Arizona. I am a little concerned. I mean, one of the biggest names coming back on that Stanford team is EJ Smith. And we talked about Arizona can't really defend the run very well. So one thing you can count on is you feel like Stanford always runs the ball as much as they can. Now, maybe that does change with the new coach and the new system, but I'm giving the win to Arizona. But this is one of those spots I was talking about where I wish these winnable games were at home in Tucson for the Wildcats, because I would feel a lot better about it.
Yeah. And look, you said hammer the under on the Mississippi State game. I'm going to say hammer the over on the Stanford game. But yeah, so I got them 3-1, and then it gets a little tricky. Okay. The Washington Huskies come to Arizona Stadium. Now, Washington preseason top 10, I feel like by every publication that I've read. They have Michael Penix, but they took a trip to, it wasn't Arizona, it was Arizona State last year, where they got upset after a huge win against UCLA. Oh wait, no, they lost. Yeah, I think they beat UCLA, and then they lost at Arizona State, if memory serves me correct. But either way, my point is that Washington should be really, really good this year. So, is there any chance the Wildcats can pull off the upset against Caleb DeBauer, Michael Penix, and the Huskies? I lean Washington, but I do think it is a interesting game, because I think Washington, their defense could be a little vulnerable, and the way that Fisch and this offense been rolling, maybe they can get some points on them. The fact it's in the desert is a sneaky place. So I'm still taking Washington. What are you doing here?
I'm going Washington as well. I mean, this was a close game last year. It was only a 10-point game last year. I think it's a shootout. You want to talk about hitting overs? This might be a game to look at the over. But I think the Huskies, they're susceptible to games like this, where they're on the road and it might be a sleepy little spot. I mean, you got to love their home field advantage, but they're not like the road Warriors. They're another team, like you said, susceptible defense. So I think this is a ball game, but I'm going to give the edge to the Huskies.
Yeah, and look, actually, now that I'm pulling it up, they haven't beaten Washington since 2014. Now, they have played them close in a couple of outings, took them to overtime in 16, 5-point game in 21, and last time in Tucson, and then last season in Seattle, just a 10-point game. So maybe something can happen there. But yeah, I got to take Washington now. And this is a brutal stretch here, because you go from Washington to the Coliseum in Los Angeles to take on the USC Trojans. And by the way, look, even during Sumlin's era, I feel like they played USC better than I thought they would. Every game I was like, oh, wow. And I'm looking at the history. They haven't beaten USC since 2012, and that was in Tucson. They haven't won in the Coliseum since 2009. And I think that's Rich Rod's era. Last season's game, though, 8-point game in Tucson. The year before, in Fisch's first year, 7-point game in LA. Now, granted, that was Clay Helton in the disaster season. But the year before that, with Sumlin, only a 4-point loss. They have lost all previous 3 games to USC by 1 score or less. However, I don't see it happening here at the Coliseum. I think, if anything, USC is finally getting their shit together, and I got USC winning here. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, talking series records, we got Arizona versus Stanford, 0 for their last 6 since 2010. Arizona versus Washington, you said, losers of 6 straight against the Huskies, and then lost the last 10 since 2012, like you said, against USC. They're 8-38 all time against the Trojans. Kind of expectable, though,
Yeah.
But if there is one thing, like you said, it's been close. Now, I think USC does get this win. However, if that defense hasn't improved, I mean, this could be a shootout. And this game is sandwiched before Notre Dame for the Trojans. So interesting little look ahead spot. Maybe there could be some magic there. I'm going USC though. Yeah,
I'm going USC. Maybe you're right. Maybe a 1-score game. Who knows what can happen? Now, this is the front end of the back-to-back away, because the very next week, and this is a tough back-to-back away, because if, from my experiences, whether it was us hanging out with Coach Leach or, interviewing some other coaches, they always hate the road trip to Pullman because it's far. It's out of the way. It's normally cold as shit. Now it's October 14th. I don't know how cold. I still think it's going to be cold because it's like farms. It's a different part of Washington. I know everyone would think Seattle or something. It is on the Idaho border, and it is a very hard place to get to. This game's intriguing because it's the revenge spot. Jayden de Laura against his old school. And then you also have the fact that last year they went down to Tucson, Wazoo did, and beat them by 11. And by the way, just to continue to piggyback on what we were talking about, Arizona hasn't won against Washington State since 2017. And that was in Tucson. They haven't won in Pullman since 2014, which probably was, if I had to blindly guess, I would say it's probably Leach's first or second year. So, and that was Rich Rod. Huge game, Pullman, Washington. I lean Wazoo here, man. Even though I think this is a shootout, I think this is a tough road trip because of, you're an Arizona guy. You're not used to going up to this like just brutal cold. A lot of times rain or, snow or something. I just feel like it's a tough place to play. But I do think these teams are very similar. Like when I was going through my pecking order in the Pac-12. Now, Wazoo is a great defensive team. Arizona is a great offensive team. They're both kind of on this tier where I don't think they're legit contenders in the Pac-12, but I think they could be bowl teams. I got Wazoo winning it though. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I got Wazoo as well. Everything you talked about, it's the second leg of a back-to-back. Pullman, sneaky home field advantage. I was surprised with Dickert. He kind of carried on almost like a Mike Leach mindset in that it's a very physical defense, a sneaky, surprising physical defense for the style of offense that they play. Usually it doesn't really like go hand in hand like that, but that's the way it is. And this is homecoming for Washington State out there in Pullman, second leg of a back-to-back, physical defense against a good offense. But I don't know. I have to go Washington State. The only thing I will point out is this game is between UCLA and Oregon for Washington State. So interesting sandwich spot there, but I give the edge to the Cougs.
Yeah, I think the fact that had they flipped this in the USC game, I would like Arizona's chances a lot better. But the fact you had to go to the Coliseum and then the very next week to Pullman, I think that's tough. If you're a Wazoo fan, I think you're happy when you see that on the schedule aligning like that. So wow. So now we got them sitting there at 3-4. Heading into their bye week on October 21st. Then comes in the Oregon State Beavers. It's funny. I was really high on Oregon State last year. They were one of my locks on the win total over. And they kind of did it with terrible quarterback play all year. Like they won 10 football games with some of the worst quarterback play that I can recall. I don't know that I can recall like a 10-win team having this bad of quarterback play in some time. And, they go out and get DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson. They also have this recruit that I know that people are raving about. And Uiagalelei is actually, people think that he's like definitely got the job. They're mistaken. They are battling it out right now. And I hear it's close. So Oregon State though, I love Jonathan Smith. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in the country. However, I think it's a dangerous spot for them because the bye week for Arizona, there's something always about those night games on Pac-12 after dark in Tucson. Now, the good thing is that Oregon State also has a bye week the week prior. And I think that's the difference for me here. I was looking originally thinking, wow, this could be the trap game. I got Oregon State winning this in the desert here. How about yourself?
Yeah, same exact thought process. If it wasn't for Oregon State having the bye as well, maybe I would think a little different about this game, but given that they both have the bye, and then you're going to bring Damian Martinez up against that Arizona Swiss cheese run defense, I can't really get behind that too much. I'm gonna go with the Beavs.
Yeah, and then the very next week, Chip Kelly. Remember, they upset the Arizona Wildcats. One of the games I watched the other day was them in the Rose Bowl upsetting Chip Kelly and UCLA. And this one's interesting to me because this is one that I try to look with all these teams. I try to say, what's the game I'm not seeing that they could be winning here? And I kind of thought if there's one that I'm not seeing, it's UCLA, right? Because they might be starting Dante Moore, a 5-star freshman. If so, freshmen normally struggle on the road. I understand they have Colin Schlee and Garbers, and maybe that works. Maybe they're okay. But if there's one that I'm not seeing, and I'm going to go out on a limb, I'm calling for an upset November 4th in the desert. Give me Arizona beating UCLA. What are you doing here?
Did you copy my homework, man? I'm going the same way, man. They got them last year. This is homecoming in Tucson. Good spot. I'm going to say the game we're not seeing, it's either this game or Washington. I feel more comfortable saying that UCLA loses on the road, homecoming in Tucson. I'm not trusting what Chip Kelly's putting down right now. So yeah, I'm lockstep, man. Win for Arizona here.
There we go. So that then puts us, that's win number 4. So remember that total sitting at 5, and now they head to Boulder, Colorado, 1-11 Colorado a year ago. This is the part they have 3 kind of mystery games on the schedule with Mississippi State, Stanford, and Colorado, but I'm going to take the Buffs. I think, cause I think Colorado, now people should know, yes, I grew up rooting for the Colorado Buffaloes, so I am a bit biased, but at the same time, I feel like if you want to play Colorado, you want to play them in September or October. By November, I do feel like, cause I really feel like this team is a lot more talented than a year ago's team. Now they have some glaring weaknesses. I think the defensive side of the ball, Colorado's not going to be very, very good, especially on the pass rush side of things. Secondary, I actually think will be pretty solid. They kind of go hand in hand though. You give Jayden de Laura a lot of time, he's going to probably find somebody. However, it's in Folsom. It's November 11th. It's going to be cold as hell. I got Colorado winning this. Yourself? I'm curious because this is like kind of pissing in the wind here. What are you doing here?
It really is. There's a narrative where the Buffs and Coach Prime, who I absolutely soft spot in my heart forever, Coach Prime. But there's a narrative where this team, things don't go well and they shut down and players start fleeing midseason and all that crazy stuff. However, they got 3 of those road games that I was talking about where I really wish they were home games. This is one of them. I gave them wins in the other 2. The next one's coming up soon, but I gave them a loss here going to Colorado. I don't know. Ralphie, Coach Prime, too much. I'm going the Buffs.
I agree. I think the element, and I also think Colorado will probably be, they have a lot of young talent. And I think, what you may see in September may be different come November. So I got the Buffs winning this one. And then comes the Utah Utes to Arizona Stadium. Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham, always one of the most underrated coaches in America. I was thinking about this. I almost did this as my UCLA play because one thing I know about Utah is really, really good in Salt Lake City, but they can over the years be bit on the road. I kind of thought this could be the one, but then I was like, no, Whittingham's always so good on all phases. They normally have a great special teams. They normally create turnovers. Taking Utah, but I'll say this. Closer than the experts think. Arizona keeps it close. I give me like a 35-31 Utah win. What are you doing here in Tucson?
Lockstep, man. I'm going with the win for the Utes, but this is the second leg of a back-to-back following Washington. So they're coming off the Huskies on the road. Then they're going to travel to Tucson. So it's a very, very weird, creepy little spot. Very tough for a team that doesn't always perform that well on the road. So I think this is a dicier spot than people are going to realize. But I do think the physicality of a Utah Whittingham team, I think it's going to take over. I think it's going to get it done. I'm going Utes.
Yeah. And by the way, I think my math was wrong before on the total. I was like, they're 1 game off, right? I think so. The wins right now with 1 game left. Northern Arizona, UTEP, Stanford. That's 3 wins right there. Oh no, I am 1 game off. Okay. And then the 4th being UCLA. So my math was correct, but over the course of my life, it's been very questionable. So now we head to the Territorial Cup, the Dust Bowl, AKA Arizona State, Sun Devil Stadium. This game's interesting to me this year. It was super interesting. I'll be honest. Arizona State, I'll give them credit. They fought hard last year considering Herm had been fired. That was a game. That's why rivalry games are great, is because coming into that, I thought Arizona was going to destroy them. It was a very close game. Kenny Dillingham comes into Arizona State. He's a former high school guy, went to Arizona State. coached in the high school in the state. He's already retweeted some disses towards the University of Arizona that I know of. So this rivalry is alive and well. It's in Tempe. It's at Sun Devil Stadium. If I gotta lean, I lean Sun Devils, man. Ooh. I lean Sun Devils, but I think it's a game. I know people are going to be listening to this saying I'm an asshole. I'm terrible. I think it's a field goal game. What are you doing here? Look, okay, here's my thing. Even if they hit this, if they win this, you're still at the number 5. So then you got to ask me, is it more likely that they get to 6 for the over to cash or the under? And I think it's more likely that the under does, because I'm giving them UCLA. I'm even giving them Stanford, which I think, who knows, they're kind of an unknown team. I think this is a winnable game. I think this is a very winnable game. So I can understand, and they'll probably be favored because I do think they're ahead of schedule. But to me, much like the Colorado argument, I'd rather play Arizona State in September than November. What are you doing here at Sun Devil Stadium?
Yeah, so this reminds me of like back in high school. You talked about your math grades. Mine weren't great either. I'd be copying off the smart kid next to me, and then like I'd throw a couple answers towards the end. Like, all right, I can't have the same answers of them the whole way. 80%, that's still a B. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these last 2. I'm different than you on this one, so we finally got one. I'm gonna go with the Sun Devil, or the Wildcats. I think the continuity for Jedd Fisch is gonna show through in this game. I think Arizona State, I mean, they were purposely giving plays away to the opposing teams to get Herm Edwards out of there. That kind of stuff, that's going to catch up with you. I think Dillingham's a good hire. I think it's going to pan out, but I think it's going to take a little bit to get some stability in that program. Whereas I think Fisch, you're not going to see it in the record, but I think this team is on the upswing. I think they're progressing. So I give the edge to the Wildcats here. I'm going with them for the win.
Wait, so then you're right on the number 5. So yeah. I got to ask you the question then. Is it more likely that they go 4-8, or is it more likely that they go 6-6?
So I got them winning 2 of those 3 50-50 road games that I was talking about. Plus I got them beating UCLA. I think the under is the play here. I think that's where I lean. I think it's a lot more likely that they lose an extra game than pick one up.
Especially when you're considering replacing the whole defensive line. I understand they can't get much worse, but a lot of unknowns. I know that they could win the Arizona State game. They could win the Colorado game for all I know, but I just feel like they also will be a dog against UCLA. I'm going under on the Wildcats. I think the floor has risen. I mentioned this at the beginning of the episode. Colorado and Arizona State, I think, especially they get them in November. I think, like I said, you want to get Colorado and Arizona State in September, even the first week of October. But getting them in November, I think they're going to be pretty solid that by then. They're going to be coming around some. So I think that doesn't bid well for them. And then, so they did get Stanford early in the season, and I gave them the win. I did not give them the win against the other 50-50 teams towards the end of the season. I'm on the under, but look, I don't want you to turn off this episode yet. All right. Because we want to talk about Arizona Football Stadium. Before I do that though, I want to tell you that we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes. Best Ball Mania is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes, plus plenty of ways to win with NHL, NBA, or MLB. They have player prop parlays. They're absolutely fantastic. Head over to underdogfantasy.com. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's underdogfantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. Look, Arizona fans, I don't want you to turn it off because I'm on the under and I picked Arizona State, even though I would understand that. Look, I'm even thinking about potentially going to a game in Tucson. I definitely love the basketball program and your fan base there, but I got a chance to chat with friend of the program, Michael Barker, who is better known on Twitter as College Football Campus Tour. So this is our interview regarding the Arizona Wildcats and Arizona Stadium. All right, we are here. I am joined by College Football Campus Tour, aka Michael Barker. Folks, first off, before we dive into Arizona football and the Arizona Stadium, give him a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour, because this guy's been to every single FBS stadium, all 133, and then a ton of FCS stadiums too. And he goes to 4 or 5, sometimes 6 games a week. you gotta follow him. He posts a photo that is always fantastic regarding the shot of the game. Michael, appreciate you joining us, and talk to us about Arizona Stadium and with the Wildcats.
So Arizona Stadium, first of all, thank you for having me. Arizona Stadium, Tucson, Arizona, Pac-12, opened in 1929. Started with only 7,000 seats, and over the nearly 100 years since original construction, it now holds 50,000. What's interesting is that they also they had their first night game way back in 1931, and you wouldn't think the night games happened in 1931, but it did. There's beautiful views of the Santa Catalina Mountains and the Tucson skyline, and they also host the annual Arizona Bowl at Arizona Stadium.
Which you've been to that bowl as well as catching Arizona games?
Yeah, so I saw one Arizona, the Wildcats game in 2021, and two of the most memorable Arizona bowls that there's been. In 2017, New Mexico State got their first bowl game victory in 60 years. In overtime, the running back Larry Rose scored from 27 yards out, ran walk-off win. Fans rushed the field. He ran all over the place. And then last year, it was another great game. It was Wyoming and Ohio, another overtime, and Ohio scored in overtime for another walk-off win. So great experiences there, two of them in the bowl game.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And I know Las Cruces isn't that far from Tucson, so those fans might have showed up. Might have been a home game for New Mexico State there. Look, the stadium since when? 29? Is that what you said?
1929. It's one of the older stadiums on the West Coast or Western area. You know, when we think of older stadiums, we're thinking of SEC, we're thinking of Ivy League. So to have one that's nearly 100 years old and is expanded up to 50,000 is pretty amazing. And when you go and you see the stadium, you can see I'm going to call them concrete towers, but the original exterior is still there, and they've just branched off it. If you go to the roadside, the upper level, it is a hike. So it took ingenuity, it took imagination to turn a 100-year-old stadium that held 7,000 into a Pac-12 level venue.
There you go. And look, folks, you don't need to go see the Cardinal Stadium. All right, just go out, drive out to Tucson, catch a Wildcat game. I got to get to the stadium. I haven't been to this stadium. I've been to Tucson, but never for a football game. I need to get out there and check a game. Arizona Stadium since 1928. Folks, give Michael a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. And look, if you're in the great state of Arizona, look, I know Tucson, I think, is only like an hour, maybe 2 hours at the most from like Phoenix. Get yourself out to an Arizona football game and enjoy some Wildcat football with Jedd Fisch and company. Michael, thank you for hopping on and talking Arizona and the Arizona Stadium.
Absolutely, Colby. Thank you.
There we go. From one Michael to the other. Look, man, that's an old stadium on the West Coast, man. We gotta plan a trip out there at some point. Check out a little Jedd. Now, let me ask you this: check out Jedd Fisch and the Wildcats. But if they go 5-7, 4-8, you think the seat's hot coming into year 4?
I don't think so. I think the Wildcats program, they've brought a lot of coaches with a lot of experience and a lot of championships, a lot of wins on their resumes around that program. And I think they knew when they took it over what a big project they really had going on. Not like Georgia Tech, who brought in Jeff Collins and they fired him after 4 years, expecting them to switch from the triple option to a spread, spread option. But I don't know, man. I really think expectations are tempered there. I think they got it figured out. I think they know they're heading in the right direction. So, no, I think he's safe for the year. I don't really think it matters unless he loses every game but like one. I think he's cool.
Yeah, I think he's safe this year. Maybe next year. I don't know, though. I kind of think they might give him 5. They might give him 5. Maybe the pressure from realignment, though. You never know. But, folks, I'm on the under. He's on the under. Hopefully I'm wrong, man. I got nothing against this Arizona team. I enjoy rooting for him. I remember one of my favorite games I ever saw was a Arizona at Washington game in like 98 when Ortiz Jenkins had a crazy game-winning touchdown. So I hope I'm wrong about the Wildcats. But regardless, I'm on the under. He's on the under. Folks, subscribe to the College Football Experience. We're on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. And obviously, we're available wherever you can get podcasts. Spotify, iTunes, et cetera, et cetera. So please check us out there. Also subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience. We talk college football year round here. Not only, and look, maybe Northern Arizona fans are listening to this. We also cover the FCS too. So check us out. All right, folks, I want you to give me a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN, but I also want you to give Mike Rose here, AKA Gulf Coast Guru, a follow on Twitter at Gulf Coast Guru. All right. And also check out Live Edge Slabs LLC. All right. Look, if you're in Vegas, you want a nice fucking table, right? I mean, what they do over there is fantastic. I really believe. Look, side hustle alert here. You should check it out. That's all I'll say. Check it out. We just got a brand new studio, SGPN in Los Angeles, California. Had I known about these guys, I would have ordered our tables from them. So check them out as well. Mike, care to say anything else about Arizona football or your tables?
I'm all on board for Arizona football. Go Jedd Fisch. I hope I'm wrong too. Just like you said, Live Edge Slabs, guys, go check them out. LiveEdgeSlabsLLC.com. Also Facebook, Instagram. Go tell them Mike sent you. And you heard it on the Colby D show. That way, they're like, hey, look at that guy. He's a shop manager. He's a blue collar man. He's sending people over. My boss, he's going to be all pumped up, stoked about that. So, hey, I'd appreciate it, guys. Really nice tables, honestly. It's a good product, so I believe in it. And Colby, thanks for letting me shout him out.
Of course, man. Look, everyone needs a good table. I don't care wherever you're living, whether you're in Arizona or whether you're in Alaska. Look, we all need a good table. Too many times you go out and buy like a stupid IKEA table, and it's a year later you're back in the same spot. Go get a real table. Invest, people. So also check out the Sports Gambling Podcast, though, folks. We have the SGPN app, which is available for free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. We also have sportsgamblingpodcast.com. You should get either or. The app is free. We're not trying to hustle you. We're not trying to take any of your money, but with that, you'll get all of our podcasts, all of our interviews, all of our other shows. We've had so many great people on the show. Obviously, Mike Leach, who Arizona faced last year, was a good friend of ours. So you would get all of our interviews with whoever we get on the show. So check us out. And until the next episode, we were going through the A's. 133 teams we're previewing here on the College Football Experience. We do it each and every year, folks. So make sure you check out all the other episodes. Perhaps you're an Arizona State fan listening to this episode, wanting to know about the enemy. Well, make sure you check out the Sun Devil one too. I know that's disgusting for me to tout that on this episode, but I just want to tell you that all 133, we're covering them all. Go check them out, folks. And all right. Well, until next time, this is the College Football Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
X marks the spot. X marks the crossroads. Two straight lines crossing over in the middle. That's the letter you must see to find the treasure or the clue or the X-ray machine that's looking right inside of you. X is the letter.